Okay, what do we got here?
What we have here is the Krause Hive, produced and presented by Viking Honeybee Laboratory. My name is Todd Krause. What we have here is a horizontal hive, but I call it the Krause Hive. And this has an ecosystem within the ecosystem, meaning that we have, if you look closer down here, we have wood chips, not just any type of wood chips. Currently, those are oak wood chips within a oak wall and ends, a maple top and a maple bottom. And what we're doing is we're raising bacteria, molds, and fungi that is producing a biological control for the varroa mites. And there is a pseudo-scorpion habitat within the wood chips. And I use a shim, or you could use a block of wood, and you take a shim or even a small block of wood and you put it down low with a little shim behind it, like so, to create a pseudo-scorpion house. Pseudo-scorpions will eat varroa mites. Now, really important to know. Some of the viewers would like to maybe see what a pseudo-scorpion looks like. Well, let me show you really quickly here. And a video is 1,000 words. This video might not be that clear, but that is a pseudo-scorpion eating the liquid within a varroa mite. So you can see the pseudo-scorpion size, and the pseudo-scorpion is much larger, of course. Pseudo-scorpions live in all of the trees throughout Michigan and throughout the United States. What they do is they live in the crevices and cracks of bark. They also live in old stumps. They live in logs that are on the ground, fallen trees, and they feed on little insect eggs and larvae. Okay? Now, why would pseudoscorpions go into the beehive? Let's talk about the history and the science. In my professional opinion, without the proof to prove this, I believe that pseudoscorpions have been going into feral colonies in hollow trees for thousands of years. And why? Let's talk about this. They already live in the trees. If you put a beehive up in the tree, they do great if you have room for pseudoscorpion habitat. And what is happening is, in the hollow tree, the feral colony, the pseudoscorpions are in the trees. They can smell the food in there. And what did they feed on before the varroa mites? They fed on the waxworm eggs and larvae. Yes, that's why they were going into the feral colonies. That's why you just seen on that little video, they were eating the varroa mites. They want that small prey to feast on. So, that being said, I have created a habitat to attract them into this hive by having this hive and all my hives sit on logs that are positioned upright with bark on the logs that act as a ladder and to attract pseudoscorpions to the hive. You have to have your hive near the forest too, because that's where they're at. Now, I also put logs on the top of this top board. This sets on the top of this. And the logs will be on here with bark, several of them. And birds actually are a carrier for pseudoscorpions, because the pseudoscorpions will crawl onto them and eat the mites. And we find pseudoscorpions in bird nests too. So if a bird lands on a log that's on top of this, and there is a log there for the pseudoscorpion to hop off onto, they're going to sense there's food in here, and then they're going to get up on in there. So I attract them. Next, the bacteria, the molds, and the fungi also produces a protein a low level of protein that the bees can feed on. Now, I can't prove this, but something's going on with that protein. I believe, in my professional opinion, that there's a systemic result, meaning that that protein gets taken up by the honeybees, the pupa, the larva, and it's doing something to the varroa mites to lower the levels, because I don't treat in these hives. So I've got these biological controls with this ecosystem. Furthermore, when the fungi release spores, is something going on with those specific spores that are landing on the bees when these wood chips are nice and fresh and green and moist from a freshly cut down tree? My professional opinion, something's going on there, but I'm just trying to gather this and prove this. I can tell you that my hives are alive, treatment-free. Most of them make it through the winter with this design. Also, you notice that there's a big space in between this bottom bar deep and the bottom board. Now, I have at least 2 inches. You can have maximum about 3 inches of wood chips. And what happens is the bees are going to build wax from this bottom bar down to just a little bit above the wood chips. Well, when that happens, that's fine, because I'll take this out, cut this out, and put it into a jar right away, so I got comb honey. Remember, I don't treat the hive, so I don't have to take a super off and then treat and all that funny business. I've done that for years. I'm out of that. I don't do that. This is all treatment-free. However, you can call my controls even a biological pesticide that I've got going on in here, excluding the pseudoscorpion that preys on the varroa mites. Now, it was said by one university faculty member, well, the pseudoscorpions, when they crawl up onto the comb, the bees will kick them out. Well, that can be true, but some bees will tolerate the pseudoscorpions, but others may not. There are 2 methods for the pseudoscorpions to hunt their prey. One is pseudoscorpions that actively go out and search for prey. The next is the pseudoscorpion that will sit way down here in the pseudoscorpion house that I will build with a wood shimmed off of this, and they'll sit down there, and when varroa mites are knocked off the bees during bee movement and fall down there, that pseudoscorpion will come out of that house and eat that varroa mite right down there. So it sits and waits. So that pseudoscorpion has a less likelihood to be extracted by the bees. Any questions? You'd have to call me. But that's what we have. Oh, also too, there is no top entrance. No. And let me explain why not. In my professional opinion, a top entrance is incorrect. There's no top entrance on a hollow tree that contains the bees. It just doesn't happen. One entrance. The reason being is because in the winter, when the bees are exhaling, those gases will build up in the hollow tree, creating a biological control for varroa mites. Varroa mites cannot take that buildup of gas when there is no top entrance. That's why you don't want a top entrance, but there's more. When the bees have all of those gases building up, it puts them into a coma state, okay? Important to know, it doesn't really harm the bees, but it harms the varroa mites. Next, when you have that top entrance, all the heat that the bees build up is being released out that top entrance. Therefore, they have to consume more honey to heat the hive. When they consume more honey to heat the hive, now they need to have more cleansing flights. They are full of waste. They need to get out there and release. So when they're consuming so much more honey to stay warm, there is the possibility of a higher rate or level of dysentery. When you plug up that top entrance, there is less loss of heat. There will be less required cleansing flights because the bees are not so full of waste. And why would you have that top entrance? Well, many universities teach, oh, you have to have a top entrance. I correct them on that because this is what we do with the condensation problem. We rough up the inside walls of the beehives to entice the bees to propolize the internal walls. The condensation will then attract to the side walls more so than build up on the top and drain down and be on your bottom board and be absorbed by the wood chips with this design. Therefore, the condensation argument is not worthy for the top vent to be put into your beehives. Don't use them. I got out of them years ago and I noticed right away, as soon as I got out of that top entrance, the bees just aren't consuming that honey. And here's more why you don't want that top entrance. When they consume less honey during the winter, they have more honey in the spring where they have to raise the temperature up of the beehive to 93 degrees for brood raising. There's no need to feed all this sugar crap that everybody, well, not everybody, but most beekeepers feed. I got out of that years ago. No fondant, no sugar bricks, none of that. Occasionally I have a beehive that is low on honey supplies. I'll add honey by adding full frames and swapping out empty frames. Or I may just take full jars of honey and take an empty frame and plaster the honey and force it down into the cells and put that into the hive. But generally speaking, when you don't have that top entrance, there's just a lot more honey left over for the spring brood rearing. So with spring brood rearing honey supplies in the hive, the gas is built up in the hive in the winter to lower varroa mite levels. Why would you want that top entrance? It just is. I've had it for years, but I got out of it because now I know. And I've gotten a lot of education from the University of Montana. Great program. I encourage everybody to take that program, and it will help you become a better beekeeper. Although I was very good before I went into that program, it just enhanced and made me even better. I think I've said most of the facts about this hive, but I'll give a couple of more facts. I have inches thick.
So about 3 inches thick.
Yeah,
what
and
about,
you can go a little less if you need to, 2.5 or so.
Okay.
But the thicker the better. I've got log hives that aren't here that are like
sure.
10 inches
What
thick.
about like the dimensions? Does it have to be this big to achieve your effect there?
No, you can take their designs that they got in here, and you can take the bottom deep and leave it empty, and take that bottom entrance and plug that up, and that bottom deep, you can come up and you can put a 7/16 wide slot by 4 inches long, about 3 to 4 inches below the tops of the bottom deep, and then put wood chips on that bottom deep, plug up that bottom board, make sure that's plugged up, or just have a flat piece of wood under there and close that all up, and there you go.
And then
that's what I have out in the field right now, because I don't have these at every yard.
Is that what you started with then? Is just a Lang's trough with wood chips in the bottom?
Yes, and then I built this.
Okay. And what led you to using the pseudoscorpions? Just that they were a natural predator of the mite? Research,
and I seen all these log hive beekeepers in England.
Yep.
And in England, I heard one of them talking about pseudoscorpions, and then I started doing research on it. And these log hive beekeepers in England, a lot of them will put those log hives up in the tree. And I'm like, what the hell? Pseudoscorpions. So I started doing all this research on it, and after that, I figured it out.
Yeah.
That's how I figured it out.
Yeah, I have to imagine just the pseudoscorpions by themselves are doing a ton of getting rid of the mites.
Oh, yeah, that's going to help any kind of biological predator that you can incorporate in your hive is necessary for success.
Yeah.
Why would you give it up? I mean, the traditional hives that they're selling nowadays don't incorporate any of these. They don't even tell you about it, but if you talk to me, I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so my other question is, why did you go with a maple top rather than oak? Because this is oak, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it was, I cut down oaks, I cut down maple.
Yeah.
This is just readily available.
It's just
now.
It's not necessarily. It doesn't matter.
No.
It could have been an oak.
No.
Probably would have been a lot heavier if it was oak. I would assume.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Now, with the wood chips, you can also add different materials to this. You could have maybe oak and maple mixed up. You could maybe even add some hops to it. This hop guard hops might be good. There's other things you can do, which I'm going to experiment with this year and see how it goes. Because remember, when you create a multitude of mediums to grow these bacteria and molds and fungi, now you could have a multitude of biological controls that can help raise the level of effectiveness for your bromite controls.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Sometimes when you got just a ham sandwich every day, maybe you want to put lettuce and tomato on there and make it better. Well, kind of like the same analogy here. So I'm experimenting with all this, but I am treatment free.
100% treatment free.
I've gone through treatments using Mite Away quick strips. Great success with it, but I don't want to use any more chemicals, even though it's organic by the feds. Okay, I don't want to have to go through it. I just want to raise my bees the best way I can without any type of treatments at all, other than biological treatments, which this here could be said to have a biological pesticide in here. The fungi that's releasing the spores. Now, there's a thought maybe psyllium in there. Well, I know Washington University's experimenting with that. I mean, there's a lot of mediums you can put down here, but anything you put down there, if you're thinking of mimicking the hollow tree, like in Michigan, the bees are all in oak trees and maple trees. Why? Because they have the big hollow cavities.
That's where all the hollow spots are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's what you want to do. If you want to be successful, if you want to be natural, this is the design that you want to have.
Well, very cool, Todd. I appreciate it, man. That was very cool. Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you.